Rosie Cerquone.
Yes.
How are you feeling today?
I'm doing good today.
Good.
Yes, yeah. I was, I had the winter sickness that
You did?
I did. Not like the really bad one. I had the slightly better one.
The one that just comes with winter?
Yes.
It's just like, you get this.
But today I was feeling like an actual human being, and I was like, perfect timing, because I
Good.
have to go talk to people.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and you have a show tonight, right?
Yes, I do have a show tonight. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You were just talking about, so give me a little bit of, just to preface this whole thing with, what you play. It's definitely not in like the normal 5 instruments that you would think of off the
Right.
top as like guitar, piano,
Yeah.
vibraphone.
Yes,
Tell me a
vibraphone
little
is my primary instrument. I grew up being a band kid and played percussion in all my school bands, and then I went to college for music and studied classical and jazz percussion primarily. There's a lot of other. I went to actually just University of Montana, believe it or not, has a really good world music program. The teacher there has studied a lot of African percussion and Balinese percussion and Brazilian percussion. So I played a lot of different things. But at this point in my career, I primarily play vibraphone. And that is what I perform with around Spokane and around the area.
So what drew you to the vibraphone?
Well, I liked jazz a lot, playing in jazz band, in my schools and playing in combos in college and stuff. I don't play a lot of jazz anymore, but it was a really good vehicle for learning, just about chords and music theory and improvisation, and I still use all that stuff all the time. So I'm really glad that I worked on it. And within jazz, vibraphone is kind of the primary mallet instrument that gets used. So that was a big reason for it. And then as I was getting towards the end of college, and as I was starting to combine my singing and my songwriting with mallet playing, there was a couple reasons I ended up choosing vibraphone. One, just some of the technicalities of the instrument and what you can do on that one versus other mallet instruments. So most people are really familiar with xylophones, or more familiar, I should say. Not really familiar.
Yeah, more familiar would be.
Everyone knows everything about the xylophone.
That's the one. It's X, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's the letter X.
When you growing up as a baby, you learning xylophone.
Exactly.
God.
Exactly.
I was wondering, what letter X? It's like, oh, yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
xylophone.
that's the only one, basically. So, yeah, xylophones and marimbas, people also are usually a little more familiar with that term than the term vibraphone. Those ones are made of wood, and marimbas are, really big. My instrument's big, for sure, but marimbas are often, 6, 7, 8 feet long.
Wow.
And so the biggest thing is that, vibraphones are just a little bit smaller, and they're a little bit more portable than a lot of the other mallet instruments, while still having a pretty good range to them. So that's one of the technical aspects. The other technical aspect is it also has a pedal on it. So just like a piano has a pedal where you can control if the notes ring out or whether they stop.
Okay.
A vibraphone also has that too. Whereas the other mallet instruments, you just hit it, and that's the note length you get. So the vibraphone gives me a little bit more play in the different textures that I can get out of it by just playing with mallets and using my foot.
That's beautiful.
So it's just a little more fun to me than the other ones too. At the end of the day,
So
I've
you
just
were kind of
always been drawn to the sound.
playing with them all, and then kind of chose as you are developing into wanting to make your own music. That's where you kind of had to select what you wanted to be your primary instrument.
Yeah.
Is that how it went down? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's in a perfect world, I would love to have a show someday where I could bring a marimba and a vibraphone and any other kind of mallet percussion and have this big giant setup where I could use all these different sounds.
Wow.
But when you're starting by playing in breweries and stuff, sometimes you can't even really fit the vibraphone in there, so you gotta start somewhere. And also mallet instruments are really expensive, which is annoying, but it is true. It's just the way it is. And so I think a big reason that most percussionists end up picking one too, whether they go into it as like a full career or go into it just as a hobbyist, is that they're like, I can kind of only invest in one a lot of the time. So I do still have a marimba, actually, but it just stays at my house, and I'll use it to teach lessons. And I'm starting to record with it more for like future music and stuff. But for playing live right now, it's just the vibraphone.
So what is like the average, like the cost of like a marimba or a xylophone?
Yeah, so like vibraphone, my instrument, it's like $7,000. Yeah. So
it's powered, right? It's plugged in.
They can be. So mine isn't. But
so that wasn't at the show?
No,
Wow.
It's not powered. It just sounds like that.
That's why there's a lot of engineering, I'm sure, that goes into making sure that those sounds. Yeah. It's really cool.
Exactly. So vibraphones, the reason they're called vibraphones is the early ones, and they still do today, mine just doesn't happen to have it because it made it slightly cheaper to not get it with this, is, you know, those tubes that come off the bottom of mallet instruments? Those are called the resonators. And in a vibraphone, there's this little rod with these fans in every single tube. And when you turn it on, if you have the capability to do that, those fans start rotating, and it gives the vibraphone vibrato, which is the wah, 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 wah sound. You can change the speed of it, so it can be slow, it can be fast.
And is that controlled like on the pedal, or is that like right where you can?
Yeah, so usually on vibraphones that have it, there will be like a little control panel like right on the side, and there's literally like a little slider where you can change how fast or how slow it goes. So anyway, yeah, mine is an electronic. It still costs like $7,000 without electronics.
Lord, I know that's quite an investment.
Yeah, and then marimbas, there are some that you can get that cost like $3,000, and that's like the low end. The really high end for the like largest ones you can get are in the like $25,000 range. So it's that's what I mean when I'm like, this is one of the hardest parts I have about my instrument and like wanting to champion my instrument, is that it's really not an accessible instrument, which sucks. And I'm trying to figure out ways to make it more accessible for people. But yeah, so
that's cool.
Yeah,
no,
that's crazy.
I got a chance to listen to the show that he's referring to too, and I was blown away not only by the sounds of the instrument, but just by the way that you like designed that song, which was like, it like had like it definitely takes you on a journey.
Oh, definitely it takes you on a journey.
Where it's just like it starts out and it's like, I don't know, did you mean to mess up right in the beginning?
Which song are we talking about?
The Revival T show. You hit the
Side.
note.
Bright Side.
Yeah, Bright Side, and you said,
You're like, that's not the right note.
You said that's not the right note, and I don't know how, it would just set the tone, because it was just so funny how things work out sometimes, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely do not plan to hit wrong notes. Believe it or not, that's not actually my goal. But I'm glad it came off really,
Well, it's just like gets
really
your attention when people when like weird things like that happen, right? Or it's just like, and it
Well,
really
kind of-
makes you pay
It
attention.
like broke the ice, I feel like. 'Cause
Exactly.
People also, you just kind of get a little laugh, and everybody was like, oh.
And as
then you just go back
performers-
into the song. So
And as performers, you know how much breaking the ice, how much value that has to get to that layer where like they really feel you type of thing. And that song just takes you on a journey, and it's just, it was just really nice. It was really, and I was more impressed
It
with like the songwriting and stuff. So
it doesn't look easy to play.
no, that was one thing I was very
Just
impressed.
the instrument in general.
Yeah,
Looks-
those holds, like, is that standard, like, or is that?
Yeah, so what you're referring to is I was holding 2 mallets in each hand for that, for most of the songs that I played, and that's just like, we call that 4 mallet grip. And there's different grips that you can use, but that's just one of the standard grips, and it doesn't feel hard anymore, obviously, because I've done it for a long time. It's definitely really, really weird at first. But yeah, I think the only reason that I'm able to sing and play at the same time, at the level that I'm still, of course, always trying to push, that I can today is because I had a lot of years where those things were both really separate. So I sang a lot growing up.
I see.
But I was like just singing, and then I also played a lot of 4 mallet solos, and again all the band kid things with my 4 mallet stuff. But no singing was involved, so I had a lot of time developing those skills separately, and then put them together. Whereas if someone was like, I want to sing and play this instrument, and I've never played it before, I think that would be much more difficult.
It showed, definitely. It definitely showed how you can kind of play with like your sounds with your voice. It was nice.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes,
How long do you think would it take like an average person to learn, like really learn? If somebody was like, I want to learn the vibraphone, like how much time would you recommend that they dedicate to? Obviously, you can't not perfecting your craft, but to really feel confident to play it in front of audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so. I like wish there was like an easy answer to that.
Yeah.
I think it's so dependent on the person, and even just saying like I want to play in front of an audience. As a teacher, I have some students that just like they're just so psyched about the instrument that they could play for a month and they'd have some really small song and they'd be like ready to go. They're like, I am going to play. I'm going to show this to everybody. And I'm like, you do that. And then I have students that I've been working with for years that are like, I am not getting up in front of anyone, even though they put in way more time and like totally could, and I don't know. I think I've always, especially as a kid, like, because I was growing up with like social media becoming a thing. Looking back now, I shared things way before I should have shared them, if that makes sense.
Same.
Oh my gosh, same.
I think it's varied.
Yeah, like way before, it was awesome. Like, and I've lost a little bit of that in the past few years, and that's something I'm actually really like purposely trying to get back to in 2024. Is like just being willing to just share, and I mean, kind of even going back to what you were saying about me messing up in the beginning of the show, I think like just being willing to share things that feel like they're in the process and not finished is just a way to break the ice in everyday life with
vulnerability.
People.
Yes.
Exactly.
Showing like, showing people you're human and then going from there.
Huge.
Yeah, it is. It's big. And I mean, as little as it seems, and although you didn't plan it, that's what it like adds value in a weird way,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
But yeah, I can agree.
I've seen people like you'll see people on stage too, like forget their lyrics or something, and then you get a real just personal moment with the crowd, because it's like almost if you see somebody mess up, it's like, oh, they probably don't mess up a lot, so it's like I almost feel like honored to just be in this moment here where it's like, oh, yeah, cool, like, and I've done the same thing, but I used to be like terrified of it on stage to mess up, and then I've learned like, dude, this is a one-of-one experience, so that's like a part of it if I do, or whatever ends up happening. Do you think your students do they all kind of have the same goal? Like, do your students all want to perform in front of crowds, or do people have different reasons for, playing the instruments?
Yeah, I mean, so most of my students are actually drum set students, because I played a ton of drums growing up too. I don't really perform on drum set that much at this point. That could totally change because I do like playing drums. It's just not my primary thing. Yeah. And yeah, it really varies. I would say most of the people that I have right now, there's like 2 categories. One is that they're kids and they either play in school band or their parents just really want them to be involved in music. But generally the only ones that actually last are the kids that also want to be involved in music. So I'm really lucky to have like primarily kids that are really excited about it, which is awesome. And then the other area I have is I have quite a few adult students too, that some of them do perform and they have groups that they've played with for a long time or a short amount of time. But some people just really like the process of learning a new skill and just understanding and connecting to music in a different way. Like they love listening to music and they just love having a little bit of the behind the scenes knowledge about it, but they don't really care to ever
like have a career in music.
And I think that's super awesome.
Yeah.
I actually love that. And those are some of my favorite students to teach, because instead of working towards this, like, all the mental stuff of being on stage and things like that.
It's a whole other thing.
Right. We get to replace that with, like, tangents about, like, a musician they really love or a specific technique, and just it's really more a study of, like, why do you find this joyful, instead of, like, let's build your confidence to get up on stage, which I love helping people with that too. It's just, especially as somebody who studied music so seriously for so long, it's really nice to remember that you can just play music for fun.
Oh, yeah.
Which I forget a lot.
Well, yeah, and I mean, because when you're trying to do it as a business or a profession or a career in any way, there's so many other things that you have to be thinking about, rather than when you're just, I don't even plan on showing. The only people I'm going to show this to are people that I see physically that come over, or I'm like, hey, can I play something? Or, but that is like not having any kind of pressure to need to share it or put it out or anything like that. I feel like I could see where that would be very freeing, because it adds a lot of extra pressure when you're trying to do it.
For sure.
Especially in front of people. How do you coach like kids or people that want to get on stage and stuff like that? How do you, are there kind of like things that you do, like exercises or something that help them get into the state of mind to be able to perform in front of a crowd?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And it's something I'm constantly, like, working on and thinking about, because and I do have to think about it a little extra hard, because I definitely can get nervous to get up on stage. But I think one thing that I've been really lucky with is just, I'm not a person super prone to stage fright. I've just always been pretty willing to get up there, which is not normal, not abnormal. It's just the way I am.
Yeah.
But it does mean when it comes to people or students that I have that are really scared, I'm like, I actually don't understand that, so I have to think about it, right? Yeah. And so I would say the people that I end up working with the most on stage fright have been, like, my middle school and high school students, because they are the ones that are usually involved in groups in their school, and so they have to be performing. It's not a matter of whether you want to perform or not. It's, you have to perform.
Like, you got to present in front of the class, like one of those things in school. But,
exactly. It's like, fortunately or unfortunately, it's just part of the class.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the way that I talk about stage fright and confidence on stage is, the first thing that I always tell them about is, hey, like, you have this, like, magic sheet of paper with, like, all the notes on it, right? And nobody else does. Like, no one else knows what you're supposed to play, right? You're the only person that has that. And so even if you skip an entire line, they don't actually see that.
Yeah.
Like, you just keep going. And so, we do a lot of practicing of, like, we'll work on cleaning up mistakes as much as possible. But usually the last run I'll have them do of something is, okay, I want you to play it. I don't care if you mess up. I just want you to keep going. Right. And, like, in music school and stuff, we'll talk a lot about, like, telegraphing your mistakes. Right. So, like, people only know it if you show it on your face and say, like, oh, I messed up, which obviously I did in my performance. Yes. But when you get to be in charge of the performance, if it makes you feel better in that scenario and it's, like, my show, and I say, oh, I messed up, I'm going to start again, that's my choice, and that makes me feel better. In a more formal setting, I would never do that, right? If I was playing in Carnegie Hall, I would probably not be like,
you just be rolling with it.
I just messed up. Like, no big deal. I'm going to start again in Carnegie Hall. Like,
you would have just done it a different way.
Exactly. And so it's all about the setting you're in. And so that's another thing I talk about too, right? Is, like, if you're playing with a group, you absolutely can't stop, right? You have to keep going because everyone else is going to leave you behind. So you have to go with them. But if you're playing by yourself, maybe you do have a minute to just take a breath and keep on playing. That
feels freeing. I feel like if it was just like, it's just keep going. Cause look, I I have stage fright. I don't know if it's stage fright. I don't know if I just don't. Anytime I have a show, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Always. Like it
No
never
matter how many, if it's a great show,
it doesn't matter how
he's
many
like,
I've done. It doesn't matter how many people are there.
I've routinely sent this guy a message about 45 minutes before he gets on stage, telling him everything will be completely fine.
Well, that's a good friend. So,
sometimes I'm not even at the show.
Yeah.
I'm just at home on my
and
couch.
it's proven, like, you know, you've done so many shows and they all work out. And then you look back and you're like, how many times were you anxious? Every time. How many times did it go bad? None. Okay. Then what are you worried about? You're like, my
How many
brain
times you forgot
and
your
these
lyrics?
emotions don't necessarily, they're not in cahoots. Okay?
Yeah.
My emotions are like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And your palms are sweat. Why are you?
And when you do that little mess up, it's just you're like, you get off stage and everyone's like, great show. And you're just like, you're like fighting the urge to be like, except for that time I messed up.
You're holding on to it.
You know, but realistically, like if you can rise out of that, you're like, that was fun. Like, did you have fun? Oh, I had fun.
Nobody notices. So like you were saying, it's like when you show it on your face, or you do a thing that people are like, you know, but when you just flub a word or something and I'm just like, keep going, then, you know, we're just like 90% focused on it, and the people that are watching
like
it are
0.
10% or 5%. Like they're like barely even notice, you know. And so that's why that was interesting to me, because I think it is good to just keep rolling. I feel like that kind of can give you confidence to just say, well, just keep going. Like,
and that is a skill in itself, you know, like, you know, I think one thing I notice a lot with my younger students is sometimes I think they want to stop when they mess up because they want to show me that they know that they didn't do it right. Like they want to show like, no, it's basically, I think if I'm really boiling it down, they're like, they don't want to feel dumb, right? They don't want to be like, oh, I just kept going because I didn't know that. I want to show you that I'm learning and that I got this. And so, you know, just being really clear about, are we working on showing that we know the music, or are we working on our performing side? Because we can't actually really think about how well we know the music when we're performing. We just got to perform. Yeah. And so, separating those tasks and realizing
you're
two
a good
different
teacher.
things.
I would say you're a very good teacher.
Well, thank you.
Because
I
like
appreciate
there's
that.
like that's like going beyond like teaching the music at that point. You know what I mean? By kind of being like, you know, like understanding what road we're going down at that moment. Because, you know, we all remember our favorite teachers. And like that's like right in line. It's like, well, what, you know, that's okay. You don't have to pass every test, Cody. You know, it's like, that was good.
Yeah.
That's good.
is that what you do for a living? Is teach or?
Yeah, so that's the main thing that I do right now, and I have a real up and down relationship with it. I really do like it. I really do like it. But I also never expected to be teaching as much as I have taught over the last 3 years, and so it's been kind of it. I mean, there's so many people that are artists and teachers, like they go really hand in hand in a lot of ways. But it's been a little bit of a block for me to figure out how to balance both of those things. And then also just like, I don't know, I feel like the last year and a half has been the first time I've had like an actual like personal life that was not just revolved around like what I wanted my career to be and stuff, and that's been really freeing and great. But that also takes up time to have, believe it or not, it takes up time to have like a true personal life that you like. So
traveling to Iceland.
Yes.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. That was just vacation with the hubby or what?
Yeah, so with my fiance, we actually got engaged in Iceland.
Oh, really?
Wow, tell us
So,
about that. That's cool.
So we hadn't been on any like big trip together that wasn't work or family related. Like it was always like going to visit family, or he's a real estate agent. He's also a percussionist. He's a drum set player. And so when I play with a band, he's my drummer.
I was going to ask that question too.
Yeah. So which is great.
That's
I
awesome.
love that. But yeah, Iceland has just like always been a bucket list place for me. I just have always wanted to go there.
I was going to ask, I was like, did you spin a globe and just hit a finger?
I know, it does kind of seem like that. But no, I just was like, I think it's such a fascinating place because it has so many different landscapes in this tiny, tiny area. Like, because it's like geothermal, so it's very like anything you'd see in like Yellowstone, you can get in Iceland.
Wow.
It's got like these giant like mountains and like some of the craziest valleys I've ever seen. That's very like Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
New Zealand-esque. But then you're right on the ocean and there's all these glaciers. It's just like, so we saw so many things in the span
Wow.
of like 10 days. And yeah, we rented a van and we just drove around the whole island and camped in the van.
Dude,
Awesome.
that sounds epic.
Yeah, it was really epic. So yeah, and then I got engaged.
And you guys went
So-
for 9 days,
Yeah,
right?
9 days.
And what did he like propose to you at like the end of the thing, or like
Yeah, he was like carrying the ring around the whole time. Like he was like
like
trying-
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah,
Gosh.
exactly. Like,
Oh my
it was like Lord of the Rings. He was like trying to find like a good place to propose, and he had like a couple ideas, but some of the ones that he initially thought there was like a lot of tourists, which makes sense. But he was like, I don't want it to be this like big showy thing in front of all these people
Yeah.
we don't know. Like you know, I love being on stage, but when it comes to like my personal life, I like really value like my privacy and
100%.
stuff. And he's the same way. And so yeah, it was near the end of our trip, but most of the campgrounds we stayed in were like pretty full. But this one we happened to stay in, there was nobody else there. It was just us.
Perfect.
And every day that our whole trip, it was like alternating like beautiful blue skies, sunny, and then like the next day would be torrential downpour. Like never seen so much rain in my life.
Wow.
And so it was one of the really nice sunny days, and we just had like a really nice breakfast and a nice morning, and then the moment just kind of came up, and it
Wow.
was super natural and
That is
sweet.
that is so awesome.
he did good. He did real good.
That is
That is cool.
awesome. Man, that's just making me feel so fuzzy inside.
know,
That's so
all
cool.
the warm,
In
fuzzy
Iceland
feelings.
too.
Yeah, no,
How special.
he definitely he stepped up for the you know, that was a good experience.
Yes,
You know.
he did.
Wow.
Yeah, he stepped up for sure.
Yeah.
So when are you guys getting married?
June.
June.
Yeah.
Perfect time to get married.
Cool.
So
Good. How exciting.
yeah.
Talk a little bit about your book that you just came out with,
Yes.
which is pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, actually, I brought you a copy.
Yes.
So you can take a look at it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so I wrote a book last year called Getting Gigs Outside of the Concert Hall, a guide for mallet percussionists. So very, very specific subject matter.
Yeah.
But basically I wrote it because I did a couple of different mallet festivals. That's like a pretty common thing in the music world, especially the classical music world. It's basically like a summer camp type thing for adults, where they just go and they talk about their really specific instrument and play concerts and give talks about it. And so I was involved in a few, and what I ended up talking about was basically just my experience as a gigging musician, but in a way that is not very common coming out of the classical music world. What you're really trained to do in most college programs is like how to win an audition at like a symphony orchestra, which is really, really hard, by the way. And there's not that many spots open, especially for percussionists. Like sometimes like one or two a year around the country will open up for
Around the country.
yeah, like open
Holy.
up for all these people who are graduating with percussion degrees and these dreams of being symphonic percussionists. So there's that, or you can be like, you can play like jazz clubs, or you can play musical theater shows with your percussion degree. And those are kind of the realms that you get taught, that you can like, where you can use your degree. And I just was not super interested in doing any of those things full time, or really pursuing any of those things full time, because it'd be years and years until one of those things worked out.
Yeah.
So, so as you know, I play a ton at breweries and wineries, and I've played weddings. I play a lot at assisted living centers. There's all these different places that I am like making money and like playing my instrument. And relatively soon out of college. And none of this was information that I learned at my music school. Like all the business side and how I chose what music to play and the hardware, the gear, you know, everything I needed. I didn't learn any of that in music school, and it was all very much trial and error based, figuring out how to get in touch with people, how to contact places. So I just decided to put it all into a book after I did some presentations on this subject. Because even though it's really specific and mostly geared towards mallet percussionists, there's also a lot of the business stuff could be used for any younger or beginning musician into their performing life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so it was a really good experience.
Did you write it more for helping people transition into gigging, or did you write it for like monetary gain? Like, what do you sell it?
I do sell it. Yeah, so I do sell it, but it's not like I'm making a wild profit on it right now by any means. Because I did self-publish it through Kindle Direct Publishing and stuff.
Oh, is that how that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, which
It
is
looks
really
nice. Yeah.
I learned a lot about just a new avenue of content creation and getting getting knowledge or whatever you want to share out into the world. Because like those are really cool, because if you order it through Amazon, it's direct to print. So I don't have to buy, as the writer, I don't have to buy a whole bunch of copies of the book.
Yeah.
People just order it and then they print a copy and they send it to them.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That is so easy.
Like a drop ship,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's just
That is
drop shipping.
awesome.
And so it's...
That makes it really easy to do that, and this is like this type of content in a book. It like bridges that gap, that it's knowledge that people will one day know. They might not think they need to know that,
Right.
but then they're just like, well, I do play percussion. Like, how can I use this?
Well, like you
Yeah.
were saying too, like just gigging, just getting gigs, just the first, just getting gigs. Just so like you're saying, there's information that can apply to anybody, somebody that wants to even just do covers somewhere.
Exactly. And so like maybe someday I'll like put it into a book that's more just about the business sides of it and not just percussion centric. But for right now, I was like, I want to get this information out into the world. I just need to share it so it doesn't just sit on my computer and then I like lose all momentum with it. And so
Smart.
Even though
smart.
even though it's really specific, I think there's a lot of different things it can grow into, and I just wanted to like just start pushing it out there, and it, there's no reason it can't grow into a bunch of other projects.
Into a whole series of
Into
books.
a whole series.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You seem like someone who wouldn't shy away from projects. You're like you like taking on projects.
No, I do. And it's like almost problematic.
Yeah.
Because,
When were you born?
19 where?
Yeah, no, like what month?
June.
I figured so.
Yeah?
You're a Gemini.
I am a Gemini.
I could tell.
You're a Gemini.
I could tell.
Geminis
I
can
could-
see. They
I
know.
knew
no, I
we
can
had
just-
a connection.
Well, I could just tell. Well, I could just tell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, what? She has to be a Gemini
Yeah.
because she's taking it on. That's funny. I can
Do
tell.
you like projects too then?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So many
I
projects.
was just talking to.
know.
I was cutting a clip of an old episode with you, and you were talking about how you were like, man, I'll just buy a bus and just put it in my parking lot or in my driveway, and then one day I'll be like, get out there, and
Tear it up, you fucking pussy, tear it up. No, what's really funny is one day he was like, what's like a perfect good day for you? I'm like, a good breakfast, a couple projects, and like a couple like projects that like you don't see the end of. Like that's like a good day for me. I'm we're like Geminis are weird like that.
Yeah.
Where like we almost want something that's like it's almost unattainable, but like you just keep working towards it. Or whatever, so. That's huge. I've always wanted to
the
do
gratification of releasing and having it physical here now is probably really accomplished.
It is. I was initially thinking of it just being like an ebook, but then once I wrote it up, the first person I shared it with was Hayden, my fiance, and he was like, this is way too big for an ebook. He was like, there's just like it's a small real life book, but it would have been a giant ebook, and so I do still sell it as a download too on my website. But
when it's print to like it's like we got print a couple.
Yeah,
Let's go.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it feels really, like you said, it just, especially as I'm sure in the music world too, like sometimes it's really hard not having like a physical thing that you've made with your work.
100%.
That can be really tricky. So it is nice to
And it feels it's really nice. Like that's better quality than I'm sure when you got it you were like, that's great.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I'll
really
print
good.
those.
What about an audio book now? You gotta.
Yeah, maybe you never
You
know.
have the voice for it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you have the
very
voice for it.
much.
People would love that.
Yeah,
You know.
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I know a guy.
There you go. There you go. Shameful plug, right?
I mean, but no,
Shameless.
Yeah,
No,
shameless.
shameful. I'm just joking.
So do you play all original music when you do your gigs, or?
So depends on the gig. Like obviously like a Revival Live kind of thing. I played one cover, but it was mostly original stuff. When I'm doing like a brewery gig, I play mostly covers with some originals in there. One thing that I've learned and that like I talk to people about when like they want to gig more is I'm very open at this point to not trying to force whatever music I want to play into any situation. I find gigging a much more enjoyable experience if I play the music people actually want to hear.
Yeah.
But making sure to schedule gigs where I do get to play what I want, you know? So like, again, Revival Live, a great example, because I just get to share my music and play what I want to play and fully curate the show. But you know, when people are coming out to a brewery, they get so hyped when they hear a song they know and it's on a vibraphone. They're like, I love that song. I had this guy freak out a few months ago because I played Ocean Eyes by Billie Eilish, and he was like, I love that song. And I was like, I did not peg you for the kind of guy
I
who
love that song.
Yeah.
That song is sick.
Yeah, this guy was like, came in his like cowboy boots and stuff, and so I was like, I did not think you were a Billie Eilish fan, but I love that you are. And so
What's the go-to song like that you get requested quite a bit? It's less just like, of course, it's like
I don't take a ton of requests
Oh,
because
okay.
I know a lot of songs, but to be the level of cover musician where you can take requests, you have to know so.
You gotta be a jukebox.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
I didn't even think, because I mean, playing it on the instrument you play is a whole different beast. I guess
Yeah.
to rephrase, I would say like, what song do you get the most reaction to?
Yeah, I mean, again, depends on the setting where I am. But I do a couple like Norah Jones covers, and people really like that on vibraphone because she's jazz leaning,
Okay,
jazz
I see.
adjacent, and so people really like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's
People
cool.
like that. People like Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
People like Adele. That
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Oh, I could see people liking some Adele.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah,
you
of
know?
And then you're
course.
sprinkling like originals in there.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of a fun way to do it because every once in a while, it doesn't always happen, but people will be like, oh, who is that one? And I was like, oh, that's one of mine. And they're like, that just like fit right in with the mix. Cause you know, sometimes with cover
Perfect.
artists, you can tell when like they go cover, original, and it's just like a really different vibe, or it just like, it just doesn't feel like it fits.
You're forcing that one in there, weren't you?
Exactly.
You really wanted to play that one for us.
Exactly. And I'm all for it, but it's just, you know, it's always a really nice feeling
It's about
when
that flow.
Yeah, when you can get that. And so that's always nice. But yeah, so I do a mix, and then, you know, like I mentioned, I play a lot of like assisted living home gigs. I like do a bunch of oldies for them, and they love it, and they sing along, and it's super sweet.
That is so
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
So yeah, again, it's like it makes them way happier to hear songs they know, and so I get more from playing music they know than playing my own music in that setting, right? Because I'm like, I can play my own music other places. Like,
Well, and
this
it's
is
for
what's gonna
them.
make them happy.
Yeah, and it really is. When you're performing, it's like that's something I feel like that's a good advice for performers in general is that it's, you know, we're here for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really about entertaining our audience is people, especially if people are paying money to show up to a place to see music, then it's all about that giving. which is why I love music so much, and especially performing music, is it's such an act of just giving and seeing like when you're saying you're seeing them singing along, and it's just like, oh, this is so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I thought was super freaking cool, because you just do a bunch of cool stuff, but you're doing like custom Valentine's songs for people. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I did that for the first time a couple years ago, and I like...
Just thought about it just one day, or just like, I'm gonna fucking like...
just it was a project that I was like, that would be really cool. And I was let's see, it would have been a couple of years ago. That would have been 2022, I guess. And so I'd moved to Spokane halfway through 2020, and that first like year and a half, I mean, it was COVID year, and it was just like I was right out of college, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I think it was during a time too where I was really trying to be creative from a financial side too, of like, what can I do with music to like, and so I was like, I know that people do write custom songs, and I'm like, I feel like I have a skill set for this, because I would say melodies are much easier for me to come up with than words. And so I was like, well, if the music part's not that hard and people are like basically giving me what to say, I don't think this should be too much of a problem. Genius. I think I can do this. And so I like drastically undercharged for it, because I needed proof of concept.
Yes.
And so I needed to know that it worked. And so I got like 12 people that signed up for it. And so I wrote 12 songs that year.
Were you overwhelmed were you like, oh, geez, 12?
I was a little overwhelmed, but again, just with the time of my life it was and stuff, I like really needed something like that to like
you were
think
hungry
about.
To just get it.
Think about nonstop. So I did it that year, and I was like, oh, that went really well. And so I did it last year. Same thing, went really well. And so I'm doing it again this year.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
That is so they tell you what they want to say.
Yeah. So basically, how I have it set up is I just have a Google form that they fill out, and they tell me a little bit about the person. And so most of the songs have been for significant others, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends. But I set it up and make it very clear that it's like it can be for any loved one. So I've had people write it for their kids, had people write it for their like soon to be child, like that isn't born yet. I had one lady.
So this song was written the year that you were born.
Yep, I had one lady who wanted a song for her grandmother, and she had found a love note from her deceased grandfather.
Oh my gosh.
And had me put that to music for her.
Did you realize it was gonna have that? Like, were you thinking just spouse when you started?
I was just, I really didn't know. Yeah. I figured it would mostly, because especially since I choose to market around Valentine's Day, just because that's like when people are thinking of it. I would be open to writing them all year round. But that's mostly when I market it. So I was like, I figured it's mostly going to be a romantic love thing. But it's been really cool to see the different ways that it pops up and the different ways that I get to write. And it's just been a really great creative outlet, because, unlike normally when you write music, there's always an option to not finish the song. Yeah. Right? There's always that option. When someone is like paying you to write a song, that is not an option any longer. You must finish this song, or you're an asshole if you don't finish it.
I was going to ask, like, how are you?
Yeah, it's probably refreshing, kind of.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, no, like, I can't back out of this. This is great.
I just like, I have to finish it. And, normally the people that are coming to you are people that have self-professed that they don't have musical talent, which I don't think is true necessarily, but they
don't have musical confidence.
Yes,
that's what it is.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And so they're coming to you, and you almost can't lose, because especially if they've heard you already, and they know your sound and stuff.
Yeah.
Because they obviously trust you enough to like even give you the information to do this. And it's something that they absolutely could not do themselves. Yeah. And so you're really helping them create something very special and memorable. And it's kind of for both of them, too.
Yeah.
And getting way back, I got way off tangent to your question about the form and how I get the information from people is it's just a few simple questions. I ask for their name, their pronouns. I ask, what do you love about this person? Just plain and simple. What do you love about this person? What do you want this person to know? And I think there's one other question. And, I ask what kind of music the person likes. And it doesn't mean that I will for sure write it in that style. But especially if it's something that I'm familiar with, or like if they say like Jack Johnson, I'm like, they like really happy, upbeat. I'm not going to make this super sappy and
It's
like.
a good question.
At least gives
boring.
you a direction.
It's a very good question to protect yourself from making the expectation get hit.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just say like, this just can help me write the song. And then I just ask if there's any other information they want me to know. And that's it. So it's really straightforward, but I mean, one of my favorite parts of the whole thing is just reading people's answers of just like what they love about this person they love. I'm like, I believe in the world again. Like, this is great. Yeah. And so, so in that way, I think it's like a cool experience for the people that order the song or ask for the song, because they just get to sit down and like think about why this person is actually really important to them. So, and I always send them a copy of their answers too. And I like try to encourage people like, hey, you should give them this along with the song, and just be like, show that like the words you wrote. And I really do try to take like exact phrases and stuff from them, so that it's not like another poet just made up a love song for you. Yeah. It's like, no, it actually is from them. I really am just doing the actual trade work of writing the song. So
that's so cool. And it's something that the person receiving the gift would never expect.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's like, flowers, chocolates. Like, what'd you get me? I had someone write you a song. Like, what?
Yeah, they come out for, like the room is set and there's candles and the song plays. That'd be nice.
You're probably causing an uptick in pregnancies.
Yeah.
Just with this.
So I'm so curious about, you said that you were vastly undercharging your first year.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what you're
I'm happy to tell prices. So that year I was only doing $25 per song.
Oh my gosh.
Is so
I had a number in my head and it was like 75.
Yeah.
And I was like, if she was charging 75, that's so cheap.
Yeah. Well, and again, I also at that point that was still a good amount of money for me to be making, because I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed proof of concept. And one thing I always do struggle with in the arts realm is I am a really big advocate for accessible arts and artistry. And obviously this is more of a custom fine experience, but I don't want, in a perfect world, I would love to not have to charge for them.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
And so, but it is like a high level skill that I'm providing too. Yeah. And so it's, that's something I'm constantly trying to work out, is like I think in the future, I would love to like offer like for X number that I sell, I can do a discount, like a way discounted one, or something like that, just to like feel like I can offer different levels. But yeah, so that first year I charged $25. The second year I did $75 a song. Good. And then this year I'm doing like a period of time where I'm doing $95 a song, and then it bumps up to $125
when we get a little closer to the day.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to ask about that timeline.
That's exactly those numbers too that I was thinking too, and that's good.
Yeah,
that's good that you come up because I mean the concept is proved.
Yeah,
like, people want it.
Exactly. Yeah, so. And it's fun, and I really do make sure that all the songs are unique. I know that there are services out there that will just like basically take the same song and like input your ideas and lyrics into them, but all of my songs are completely different, completely unique. So I work really hard on that.
I mean, it's just knowing that you just created it. Just that it's like that one of one experience. Mm-hmm. That's got to be just a really, I mean, it seems like it would be is it really easy to write for you? Like, is it just something that you just force yourself to do and like to force the time as far as like, hey, I'm just going to delegate this time and then you just write? Or does writer's block come into play at all?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think writer's block has been something I've dealt with more in the past like year and a half or so than I have before. Like in when I was in school and stuff, writing was just the thing I did when I had the time, you know? And so sometimes I'd have a little idea, but you know, you're busy. You have this very exact schedule that the system has set out for you. And so I had very limited time to where I could even really make those ideas happen. Yeah. And so I never really felt like I had writer's block then because
you're always fresh when you're coming into...
Exactly. You just have really limited time to do it. It's different now as an adult and like having way more time to be able to do it. You know, like I don't write every day or anything like that. I would like to get to a place where I do that and have a little bit more dedication to the craft of songwriting. But yeah, so I think one thing that is really interesting about the love song stuff is I don't have a lot of writer's block with that.
That's kind of what I was curious about.
Like there's not
the words are there.
The part of the puzzle is already there.
And the part that comes naturally to you, the melody part, is what they're lacking.
Exactly. And so it works really well to my skill set in that way. I've had a little bit more writer's block for my own music when it comes to the words and that content recently, just because there's just been like a weird emotional period of my life for me, which I think is really, really normal in your mid-20s, so I'm not too concerned about it. But it's made like what I want to write about and entering into this new phase of my life as like a wife and like an actual adult instead of a fake adult, I guess.
Yes. Getting engaged and being like married will change the way that you kind of create your art for sure.
Exactly. And it's just already changed just like the things I really, really care about and like different goals I have in life. And so, you know, I'm all for writing music and stuff about the gray areas and the messy parts of life. But I feel like sometimes it's a little easy to write about that messiness when you're just a little bit past it. And I feel like I'm just getting past the really, really messy stuff. Yeah. And so I feel like I'm starting to have a little bit of a renewed sense for writing, which is really fun and really exciting.
Fun. Is Brightside a newer song or older?
Older. It's because I released that in 2021. Cool. I released that in 2022.
Yeah, it seems like a song where you're overcoming, you know, because it's like, you know, you're looking at the bright side.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, that's interesting about the way your process and stuff. It's yeah.
Well, because bright side is kind of about like it's kind of like it's okay to not be okay kind of a thing, right? Like these things are happening and like not all clouds have silver linings and like. Yes. But I heard in another song. What was the other song? It was the love song for the night.
Oh yeah.
And you talk about bright side. Like you have a bright side lyric in there. So was that before the song?
Yeah, that was before the song. I love that you listened to it that closely because I actually, I think I wrote Bright Side and then I sang Love Song again at some point. And I was like, oh, there's that little term in there, and And so I didn't even realize
so that was like a self-conscious.
Yeah, it was just like a subconscious.
I was wondering if it like inspired the song, like that one lyric.
It didn't,
like, oh,
but
that's
I love
cool.
that you noticed that. So that's
yeah,
so cool.
I was. Yeah, that was a really. It's really such a unique sound, and I think like Brightside specifically, how it starts out. You really don't know what to expect. You just start hearing, you just start hearing the instrument. And you're kind of like, okay, and then you start singing, and you really, I feel like it really lets your voice shine too, because it's very simple, you know, like it's just simple. There's not like a bunch of instruments. It's just voice, instruments. So it's very easy to like listen to the lyrics. And then when you get in that hook and you hook in, oh man, that shit is just so good. Like
Thank you.
And I bring up Sean Stratty because it was the same thing. Before I did a podcast with him, like I just, you know, I always listen to the music, and then it's like I can't get it out of my head. Just like there'll be one song that I'm just like in love with, and that's exactly how this was. Like
Cool.
it's just been in my head for like a week plus.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on the podcast here. Talk about, so how often do you do shows like locally around here? Do you
Yeah, it's definitely fluctuated a lot over the last few years. I would say 2022 was kind of like my peak show year. So within the last like 3 or 4 years here, like especially that summer, I was playing like 2 times a week for a lot of the months, and which, I mean, some people play like 4 or 5 times a week, so it's not, but for me that was a lot. And especially because performing wasn't my only thing. I was still teaching and doing a lot of other just kind of random side work and stuff. And so now I would say that I'm probably playing more like 2 times a month. And some of those are public and some of those are private events.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and I have
like I can't come to the assisted living facility and come check that one out.
Yeah, I can't come check that one out. Or like
spitting bars.
Exactly.
She's with me.
But yeah, or like I have like a few more weddings and stuff like that on the books. So yeah, it's like I have the one at Bottle Bay Brewing tonight. And then, yeah, I mean, I also occasionally in my gigging world is like I sub with the Spokane Symphony sometimes.
Oh, really?
I've done that occasionally. I am like playing in a musical theater production in March, you know, so there's some different elements besides just the like straight ahead gigs that I do too.
No, it seems like a very, like, especially with your background in music, it's like a dynamic, you have all these different types of performances that you can fit into.
Yeah, which is really fun. And occasionally it can feel like a little much to keep up with, especially because it's like the same instruments, but kind of different skill sets sometimes. But for the most part, I really like it. And that's something I've always loved about percussion, even though I primarily play vibraphone now. I love that, like, you know, like just from like a school band setting, like everybody else is just sitting down and playing their saxophone, and I'm back there running to different instruments and like playing 5 different things in one song, and that's just way more fun to me. So
is this always what you wanted to do?
I think I always just really enjoyed making things and making art and making music.
And you just doubled down on it over the years. Like, I'm just going to keep doing what it feels good.
Yeah, and I think I was lucky to have really good music teachers, both as private lesson teachers and in my schools, that were very supportive and very good at helping me see what the next step in the path was as far as continuing to study it. And for me, like, going to college, like, music was actually a really good financial choice because it paid for my school, you know, to get scholarships for going for music, you know. So it's like, you know, people always talk about how getting an arts degree can be kind of useless from a college, and I'm not completely against that statement. Like, depending on what you go for, or you know, how
you had to like pave your own path because you were like, you know, the 3 things they basically say, hey, this is what you can use it for.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't know, it's weird. Jobs are weird.
But it's still valuable for you to have it.
Yes, and it was a great decision for me, and I don't regret getting my music degree whatsoever, because I mean, really, it gave me 4 years to practice is really what it did. Is to just like focus on playing my
Yeah, true.
instrument really intensely.
Much different than like a traditional degree that people may go for, where it's like it puts you into work like a job. It's like this helps you create the whole time.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. You're just really working at understanding your instrument more and being able to learn things faster. And I was just very much a put your head down and do the work kind of kid too.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
so it was a good choice for me.
So when you were in school, were you already writing your own music, or was it?
Yeah,
When did that start?
I started songwriting when I was like in middle school and high school.
Really?
Wow.
Because I actually, guitar was my first instrument. I started playing when I was quite young. I'm not good. Like, I don't want anyone to see me play a guitar ever again. If I never played the guitar ever again in front of people, I would die happy. But
do you still like to play it? Just not in front of people,
No,
or not at
not
all?
really.
Okay. More drums.
yeah, exactly. More drums, more percussion. So yeah, that's how I started. And if I had just started with percussion, I don't know if I would have ever gotten into songwriting and stuff, because I was really I loved learning covers on guitar, and so for a long time it was like it's actually the YouTube channel I still have now, but I think I have privated a lot of these videos. But I would just make cover songs to put on YouTube. I'd sing my favorite Lumineers song or whatever and play it on guitar. And then I also had this other part of my life, which was my band life, and I'd learn my 4 mallet marimba solos and play the timpani and stuff, but they were very, very separate. Yeah, so when I originally started songwriting, I wrote on guitar because, again, that's just like the pathway that I'd seen people do it. And I had a band for a little while in college where I played guitar and sang, and it was mostly my original music with some covers. But that, honestly, at that point was primarily because I didn't have a mallet instrument that I could gig with. So I had to play guitar, and then
You had to create music, and
yes, I had to. And so but then in college it got to a point where I realized I was like, I'm really struggling with like playing the things that I want to be able to play on guitar, because it just was never my instrument. I was also spending like 3, 4, 5 hours a day on these mallet and percussion instruments. Yeah. And so then I realized, I was like, oh, I actually can play a lot of the things I want to play on mallets. And so that's when I started switching over. That had to be like
an aha moment right there.
Yeah, because I'd done a little tiny bit of playing and singing before that, but I did kind of need to purposely decide I was going to try it that way. And, I had a lot of time of not performing on mallet instruments before I started performing. There was like 2 years where playing mallets and singing was just a thing I did in the practice room, and I'd like be in there at 7 a.m. so no one else could like hear me. Yeah. And I'd record my little 20-second thing for Instagram, and I'd put it up, and then I'd go about the rest of my day. But
that's where it started.
Yeah.
So Brightside, was that the last thing you released?
Yeah, it was the last thing I released, and it's not because I haven't written music since then. I've written plenty, but part of my struggle last year was just like not getting stuff released. So that's going to change this year.
So is it more just like is it like a lot in the process of it, the whole thing, or like was it a time thing, or just it just wasn't ready to put it out?
Yeah, I mean, Brightside was the last thing I released. The first thing I released was actually a full album.
Yeah.
Which I was extremely DIY. I did everything except for master it. Every other step I did myself. So,
what's the name of the album?
The How and the Why.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the reason that I recorded and like got that one out into the world is because my senior year of college, I started playing and singing more, and people were like, "When are you gonna put out an album?" I was like, this summer, and I had no idea how I was going to do that. But I was like, I just started telling people, and then I had to stick to it because enough people had heard me say that. So again, I like imposed a deadline on myself.
Created that, made it a project.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's the demand for the people too. So it's like probably feels like, people want to hear an album. So.
Totally, yeah.
And you think that's what you need to release to the world when you're like just starting? You're thinking like it needs an album when you totally could have got by with a single.
Yeah.
Or like released it in
it's
a
ambitious,
way.
for sure. It's ambitious.
No.
But it's just like you just like once again you don't know any better.
Yeah.
And
I have zero regrets about doing that. Even though I listened back to that album and I'm like, okay, here's the like 800 things that are wrong with it.
But you learned.
I learned so much from it. And it was also, while definitely it was stressful at times, it was also so fun. And I loved not having the voices in my head that I do now about like how you should go about your releasing and like exactly. And while I know those things don't matter, it's still, I've definitely gotten into a rut where it's like, okay, well, I don't want to record this song because I like don't have all the perfect recording like things in my house, and I don't really want to pay for studio time right now. And then I'm gonna need to like do this video with it, and like I need all this like really good social media content, whereas when I first did it, I still had all those things. It wasn't the most professional, but people were still really excited about it.
You weren't overthinking it.
And I love DIYing the shit out of things, even if it
sounded
means,
great. I wasn't listening to the album like, oh, this sounds like she recorded it in her bedroom,
which
or
is
like
what
that.
I did. So thank you. But yeah, and so I really miss sacrificing a little bit of quality to just do it in the way that makes me happy. I've really gotten a little bit stuck in like
making things look perfect.
Yeah,
like, it sounds great.
Exactly. And like, I see the people that are like succeeding on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and I mean they are just like they sound great, super inspiring, but they're also kind of slaves to the algorithm, and just like posting all the time to get all the views, get it out there. And I really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I just have to realize that I might get less traction, I might get less views, but I will get my art out there and it'll make me happier if I don't do it in that crazy, intense, perfect industry way.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy. And so that's okay with me if my rise into people's knowledge or playlists or whatever is a little slower,
a little more organic.
That
than
actually
like shoved into your face.
And you have good music on Spotify, and I think that a lot of artists, it's like the people who just don't take that first step to get it online.
Yeah,
like it's just on Instagram, it's just on YouTube. Oh, it's on SoundCloud. Oh, it's like always on like some weird thing. Like, well, can I just go to Spot? And so when I typed your name in and I found it, and I found Brightside, I was like, fuck yeah, dude, okay. And then I found the album. I was like, just having something to chew on is so important. So now I feel like you could take your time, but right here on this podcast, we're going to say it. Like, we want an album. And then so now you got to make a project.
All right. Good. I will take that. I need it. So
I'm sure you got a bunch of stuff that's just written, sitting there, just ready to see the light of day. Yeah.
Like, cause one thing I am good about is I don't sit on songs for a long time before I perform them. I'm very willing to there's a lot of stuff that's not released that I've been playing for a year plus at this point.
So a lot of people go see your show and they're like, I love this, and then they can't find it.
I'm so sorry. I'm an asshole.
Those recordings are the best too. When you've been playing them for a year.
Yeah.
Don't they come out different? Don't they come out so much different in the studio?
It's like I love both ends of the spectrum. I love the recordings that people do when the song is just first coming to life and they capture that magic in the studio.
Yep.
And I love the recordings that people have had for years and years, and there's like this like familiarity they have with them that you can't get any other way. Mm-hmm. So I love both of those are a different kind of magic.
They are both a magic for sure. And it's tough to kind of decide which one. It's almost like you better just do both.
Yeah.
You better just record one and then just like stash it and then perform it for a year, and then maybe see if it's different.
Yeah.
You know?
For
Yeah,
sure.
and you really get to kind of see what people like too. When you bring it out to the stage, then you kind of get to, people really like this one. And I think constructing a project, whether it's an EP or even a string of singles or an album, it's just to me at least, it's a very, very special. It's a very special thing because and the Valentine's Day stuff, like this stuff is all forever stuff. Like this is what is so beautiful. Like this is up until the internet crashes. Like this exists, and then if you have physical copies of stuff, like it's just it's so meaningful because it comes straight. It just comes from you into now someone's has it. Someone's holding on to it. Someone has it in their playlist and loves the song. And a lot of people these days, it's like, remember I was born in '86, so we had the books with the CDs in them, and now people just have a playlist.
Right.
So it's like changing times and stuff. But it was interesting to hear what you were talking about with the social media, because I think that most people that put music online and are doing this in a business sense are slaves to the algorithm and are trying to find, how do I market my music? How do I do it in a way that it's going to reach the right people and more people? And it's just a lot of stuff that can get in your way as an artist, because our job is just to make great art. And we're not supposed to be good at marketing our music. We're not supposed to be good at social media. We're not supposed to be good at this stuff. But in this day and age, that's the other thing, is like there's a lot of comparison. I see a lot of people. It's like, they're doing that, and then that stuff will get in the way of where it's just, you don't need to worry about that. Just make great art and make sure that it does see the light of day. And this is your journey. This is what's going to happen is supposed to happen.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. And I think another thing I've struggled with social media is Instagram was becoming a big thing like when I was in middle school and high school. And so I started posting like little pieces of my music from my iPod Nano or whatever, my iPod Touch, there we go. And it was like when it was 15-second videos, stuff. And so you like pick like the 2.5 lines you like the best.
Oh my God, you're right. Because it was only 15 seconds. I forgot about that. You're like, damn, I can't fit in that last word, to finish the sentence. Exactly. And so I started posting and I started sharing my, my singing and playing stuff on Instagram in college more. And I don't have like a giant Instagram following by any means, but what I did tap into, and it was very accidental, is there is like more than a lot of other instruments, there is like a very strong like online drum and percussion community. Especially among people that are like studying it at like a higher high school, college level. I think it's partially because percussion and drums are such a visual instrument that it lends itself really well to sharing videos and stuff. And I think that's a big part of it. And so from sharing, I like connected myself to a lot of different percussionists, and especially I grew up in Montana. Like I had music friends, but I didn't have a lot of people like studying it or aspiring to the level I was trying to go after. And so social media for me, it was not a marketing thing, but it was really just like, it was truly just a place to connect with people.
Like to tap into that community.
Yeah, and to be a part of that community. And like I said, it was so accidental, and it was just really cool. And it connected me to some festivals that I attended. I didn't teach at or anything, but I attended, and I met so many people that way. And so it's been difficult kind of transitioning into like, because now everybody has their 5-step plan for social media and stuff like that. It's hard using it as a tool sometimes, instead of like just as a place where it used to be just for fun and just to connect with people. And so, but it's undeniable that it's a tool, and that I also do have to use it as a tool if I want to like push my career to different elements. So yeah, I'm really trying to find a balance with that and figure out like what things do I need to do, what things do I get to do on social media. It's very tricky.
Yeah, what do I need to not worry about? I feel like it is just like less is more? Like, do you ever take breaks, like social media breaks, or do you not need a break ever?
No, God, I feel like I need a long break.
I'm just gonna say right now, I deleted it actually.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not to continue with the question. He said, "Do you ever take breaks?" But I mean, like, I straight up like it's toxic and to me, to a sense, and I just was like, all right, and I deleted it. But
yeah, well, and the thing is, I really strongly relate to you on that, and I know that there are absolutely ways I could continue my business and my music and the way I want to connect people without social media, but also so much of my career is due to social media, and so I'm not ready to let go of figuring it out yet, but I do think, like, I have been thinking a lot about when I can take more dedicated breaks, even if it's just like a weekend a month that I like take without it, or like a day a week, because I think it's harder when you take like a whole week or a whole month off at a time. But I'm like, even just like a day would make my brain feel so much clearer. So I've been thinking about that a lot.
After 2 weeks of not having it on my phone, I realized that, and this is just what works for me, because I also own a business in town, and I need social media for that. And so I realized that having it on a separate device that's not my phone is what,
like having to go to a computer or
it's just like an old phone.
Oh, okay.
I see, that would be
and you
great.
and you just know you're not going to be that guy carrying around two phones, or gal carrying around two phones. So it's like, okay, here it is. And so that's what's working for me currently. Is that there's a separate phone that's sitting there with no plan on it, but it's connected to Wi-Fi, and I can kind of keep the people engaged in the business going, but I leave it alone other than that. And I mean, it's really, really, really been relaxing.
You're not scrolling.
You took a really big break recently.
Yeah, we did a month, I think.
A month without it. And you were telling me, you were just like, it's been nice, but like in the back of my brain, I'm like, I'm wondering what's going on. You know?
Well, it's because it's like there's like a couple elements to it, right? Like we're like a consumer aspect. I feel like the consumer side, well, both sides
I could give up the whole like being sold stuff on it. Like that part I wasn't missing. But were you missing like things being given? Like, were you missing the you seeking, or were you missing the things coming at you?
So I'm more of a like, I don't do like reels where I'm like, I just get lost in the TikTok type out.
You were saying that.
Like I never scroll. I never look.
He never scrolls reels.
No,
That's
I literally, no, seriously.
That is shocking.
How do you never scroll a reel?
Because
There's a part missing in your brain, but good for you.
The attractive
know.
part to me was of social media, of Instagram, was that I could just follow the people I want to follow. So the comedians and the skateboarders and the artists and my friends. And that way, if I'm just going down my, what do you call it, a timeline? I don't know what they call it these days. You go in your feed. Yeah, I'm going down and I'm just seeing what I want to see. I'm like, okay, yeah, Tony Hawk. Okay, cool. What's that? Oh yeah, no, I love this guy. All right. And I'm seeing what I want to see. And then if something's not serving me, then I unfollow it. And then I can really kind of control. And when I'm going down reels, I'm just seeing, you're just putting all sorts of stuff. You're just seeing all sorts of stuff I didn't ask for, And
you just made me explode, because that's exactly what it is. It's like until Reels came out, it was like a thing where it was like, you kind of had a little peg on what you wanted to see, but Reels really changed that.
Yeah.
And that's big of you to just not have to do.
And it's not like, it's not that intentional as it sounds. I literally just have it like it's a time suck, and I'm trying to be really intentional with my time. And I do use social media more as like a tool and a means to connect with a community, like connecting with you and doing a podcast.
Yeah, you are good at that.
That's what I like to use it for. Most of the time, if I'm on social media, I'm like checking my reel, like, how's it doing? Is it doing all right? Okay, cool. Like, all right, what did they like about it? What did they not like? Okay, all right, just trying to like analyze it, which is a lot of the toxic stuff too, because you're trying to figure out the algorithm. Right. You're trying to create the right content.
I will say, if anybody is really good at using social media in the correct way, it is you, because about a long time ago, you taught me how to use it, like to grow an audience. That was like 15 years ago.
I met you on social media.
Yeah, we met each other drum fills.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's just that seems to be like, yeah. So in terms of connecting, that's definitely what you're good at on it. And I could see like it's like, okay, this could be bad if I keep going. But like if I just use it where it's a one-ended sword and it doesn't stab me back.
I'm addicted to like, if I don't, like, I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like if I'm not posting enough or I'm not, it's like, am I doing enough?
Yeah.
And then that's that kind of plaguing, where it's like, I don't want to spend more time on social media than I want to spend actually creating music or actually enjoying the music, performing live. Those things. Like I was talking about the stage fright and stuff, it's just such a conundrum too, because it's like I'll be all nervous about it, and then like the second I step on stage, it's just all gone. Like it's just nothing but fun, and it's like all those feelings. It was like, why were you even worried about this? Like this is, you love this.
No, I'm glad you brought this up again, because I wanted to ask this earlier. Like, again, as somebody who doesn't have like a ton of stage fright, what is obviously you go through the laundry list of like everything's worked before. I always have fun once it's done. But like what gets you up on stage, like truly, if you are really having those like feelings of anxiety?
So it's truly a separation.
She's gonna cure this
Yo,
right
it's
now.
a separation.
I do not believe I'm gonna cure. This is
just
research for me.
It really is. It's a
I feel you.
separation between mental and emotion. So my emotion is like, so when a gig comes up, right, and somebody offers us an opportunity, I have gotten good now at really analyzing the opportunity and knowing if it's something that I want to do. And if it's something that I want to do up here, and I know that down here I'm gonna be like freaking out, and it's like I just already know that I'm gonna go through the thing, right? Like I'm gonna say yes to it, and then a week before it happens, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, I got a thing. There's a thing. That's on Friday. It's on Friday. Okay. It's no problem. But I'll be anxious like days ahead of time. Like this isn't even for like 7 days. Like you don't have to worry about it. I'm like, oh man, but it's coming. Yeah. So it's but it's like my brain knows, no, that you love this.
Yeah.
You love this, even though my body will be like fight or flighting myself, like, oh, you gotta, and I'll just be getting. But I feel like I have ADHD. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I just maybe kind of. I was a little anxious before this podcast. Yeah. Yeah, just, hanging out.
Intimidating.
Hanging out with someone new. It's just like not nearly as much as a show, but just a little bit of just, And somebody I know just made a post, and it was something about when you feel that, understand or turn that into, it's like, I'm not nervous, I'm not anxious, I'm excited.
Yes. That's really,
I've heard that too.
Really big. Yeah. And that's something that I use definitely, because like, I don't have stage fright, but of course I like want to do a good job. I care about it. And, part of caring is like being nervous and uncomfortable. And so that's a big one.
So there's some degree for you of like butterflies or something when you have a show?
Definitely. It's not like when I say I don't have stage fright, it's not me being like, I could just take a nap and then wake up and go on stage and like be the chillest person I've ever been. One, I'm not a chill person. I'm quite an anxious person, just naturally day to day. So that's not going to happen. But yeah, I think I've always been very quick to say, that's not nervous, that's excited. Yeah. And so yes, I feel very excited before a show. And it would be weird if you like didn't feel like your heart was pumping a little bit harder.
Like you said, it's like an acknowledgement from your body that, you're about to do something. Like it should make you feel. Exactly. It's like that. It's like getting off stage. Like it's like the complete opposite. It's like when you get off stage, you're like, I'm invincible. Yeah. This is amazing. Like it's like the best high you could ever have is doing a great job and getting off stage and just being like, wow.
Exactly.
Isn't that true? It is true.
It's the best feeling ever. And releasing a project is just right up there. You work on this thing and then you get to put it out, and it's just like this relief of like, oh, it's out there now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Rosie, thank you for coming on the podcast. Seriously, this is a ton of fun. I know that there's probably a bunch of other things that I'm just forgetting to ask you, but we'll just have to do it again.
That sounds good to me. That works. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Look at this camera right here and tell the people what just one thing you're grateful for.
One thing I am grateful for today is continuing to tap into the Spokane creative community because I'm still new enough here that it feels like there's always new people to meet. And I'm very grateful for that.
Cool. Good answer.
Yeah.
Rosie Cerquone. Thank you guys. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Nice to meet you,
Thank you,
Rosie.
Brandon. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, everybody at home watching that took the time to tune in live, if anybody tuned in live. And thank you for watching this podcast. We were talking about algorithms and we were talking about scrollings and stuff like that. Please share this podcast. Please share this clip or whatever. However you find this, share it with a friend that might enjoy it, okay? And check out Rosie's book, okay? It does not just apply to vibraphone or percussionists. You can take this book and you can learn, if you're just doing gigs out there in general. Thank you, guys. Love y'all. Peace.
Thanks, Rosie. That was fun.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, it is what it is, and it ain't that bad. You leave forever, then you lose what you had. You're the only place called home, called Spokane. You're the only place called home, called Spokane. You're the only place called home, called Spokane.
And it's like, I don't know, did you mean to mess up right in the beginning?
So yes, I just was not super interested.
Nobody notices.
Believe it or not, that's actually my goal.